All right. Here's the spoiler about WrestleMania. Before we even start getting into it, it was a good show. A lot of times we don't have that. We don't have the problem of complimenting WWE on their events. But this was a good show. And we're going to go over it. So in case you're
100% it was a good show.
And just just in case you're going to, anyone that thinks that you're just like, it's all about AEW. And obviously we're not. We've talked about this, especially with my history. I'm a fan of the art. Whether you call it sports, entertainment, or pro wrestling, I'm a fan of the art. I will call stuff out when it doesn't work, and I will call out stuff when it does work. And this one worked really well.
Look, I'll say I am way more into AEW right now than I am to WWE, and this grabbed me. You know what I mean? This got me.
Yeah, it was, and it started off shaky. Like, I was not sure what was going to happen because I had a bone to pick that, like, I think the Andre the Giant Battle Royal is too important to not have on the main show. And now you have 2 days and you can't fit it on the main show. And they put it on SmackDown. And then you have the U.S. title just on Finn Balor in the Battle Royal and he's not defending it. And then Ricochet has the IC belt and that didn't even make it on the main WrestleMania card. But be that as it may, I'm going to focus on the positives. That didn't even happen on the main card. That was a lot of wrestling, dude. So you got 2 hours of SmackDown. You got about 3 hours of NXT. Then you had 3 to 4 hours of WrestleMania Night 1, and then another 3. That's a lot of wrestling over the weekend. And then you go right into the Raw after Mania. It's just like around the clock.
I didn't see SmackDown. Was the go home SmackDown pretty good?
It was part of WrestleMania. It was like the WrestleMania SmackDown, and they put the Andre Battle Royal, which was not good.
Oh, I see. I got you.
And then I don't even remember who Ricochet defended the belts against, but he kept it. So it was that uneventful. The only thing that you remember about the Battle Royals, they kind of teased like Finn Balor was going to win, and it got people who love Finn Balor excited, and then they gave it to Madcap Moss, got the win. You know, that guy that's with Happy Corbin that you're like, people were shitting on AEW for having all these comedy gimmicks, and then you got Madcap Moss.
Oh, right.
Yeah. He won the Battle Royal. So, but we're not going to count that. We're not going to count it. We're going to just talk about the 2-night events that was in Dallas. You and I were both scarred from the last time we went, so we didn't even go see it in person. And ironically, this one would have been enjoyable to see in person.
Yeah, they go and have a good WrestleMania, the best WrestleMania in a while, I think.
In a long time, yeah.
In a long time?
And they went and did it right here in Dallas, and we didn't even go because we were scarred from last time. We thought we were going to get screwed. So it started off with the Usos defeated Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs. We had a shoot injury in that match. Boogs is like a super strong dude. Like, I think he's like an Old Spice spokesman anyway. He was going to do like a double press, and he was going to have both Usos on his shoulders, and his knee buckled in a weird way. You're like, oh, that didn't look good. And he started screaming, rolled out of the ring, and that was pretty much the end for him. And they literally carried him out. So that was the only thing that was really memorable about that match. Other than Shinsuke is still over, and having this guy Boogs with him playing the guitar, the crowd was singing along. So that helped. That being an opening match helped because the crowd was hyped. That they just started basically, they love to sing Shinsuke's song. And Vince tried to stop them from singing it for the longest time. He's allowing them to sing it again, and it got the crowd in the right state of mind and got it started on the right foot to have that match first. So thumbs up for booking that match first. Because you had a very troublesome second match that people were not excited about. What
was the second match?
Happy Corbin versus Drew McIntyre.
Oh, yeah, I completely tuned out when that was on.
Yeah, and the only thing that really memorable that happened with there was Drew McIntyre took Jim Cornette's advice and probably finally swung that sword and cut through 2 of the ropes. But it was totally...
Okay.
They made the mistake of showing it in slow motion, so when he hit the sword on the ropes, you saw the sword bend. So shame on you, production, for doing that, because it looked cool because he cut it and the ropes just went pop. And don't show it in slow motion because it got its effect. You slow motioned it and then you saw the sword bend. So that was the only thing that was kind of... But Drew McIntyre needs something different. Happy Corbin is actually doing some of the best work he's ever done with this new Gimmick. Although I liked Down on His Luck Corbin a little better, but this is working.
Way better.
Yeah.
Drew McIntyre is just he's kind of an old school gimmick. He like belongs in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they can do with him, but yeah, he should join Sheamus, and they could be like Lords of Brooklyn because they're doing.
Oh man,
Sheamus is doing that.
Yeah, that's
Lords
right.
of Brooklyn
Because he's
gimmick.
got the Butch and he's got Ridge. Although we'll get into the Ridge thing here in a minute because I got my picks on this. And then we started with the first what you would consider big match was Miz and Logan Paul defeated the Mysterios. And I got to tell you, man, Logan Paul has the cheat codes to this Matrix.
Yeah, probably so.
Because
Right?
this guy fought Mayweather. Now he's going to fight Tyson. And now he got to be a part of WrestleMania. And he was entertaining. He was great. As a heel, he gets nuclear heat. Nuclear heat. He came out wearing like a Pokemon card that he just broke the Guinness Book of World Records for purchasing the most expensive Pokemon card. It was like $6 million or something. And he wore it to the ring in like a diamond encrusted thing. But he, obviously, you know the history between Ray and Eddie Guerrero. So they were doing the tribute. But when Logan Paul tried to do the tribute and do the Three Amigos suplexes that Eddie Guerrero, and then he got on the top and he did the Eddie dance and the frog splash, he got so much heat. That was great. People would pay big money to watch Logan Paul in a fight. I think if he was on top of a card. Well, we did because he's done it with boxing.
100%. And like it's crazy. This is a guy who got famous like pranking people, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that his thing? But yeah, so this is part of like I think a bigger narrative of the night that I saw. WWE is figuring some stuff out, but I'll double back on that. But yes, highly entertaining. People want to see him get hit. Worked perfectly. And he's good. He's a good wrestler, too.
He's athletic. Dude, he was super. I mean, you knew he was an athlete. Like, he was a shooter.
He's going to fight Mike Tyson later, so
Yeah.
This is just a warm-up.
No, this is great. Like, he's checking off things on his bucket list. Like, wow, this dude, like, if you were playing, Fortnite and you saw someone like him running around, you're like, oh, this guy's got cheat codes. Like, how is he doing? This is his life. This is his life that he's doing this. But hats off. I'd pay money. I did. Well, I paid for the money Mayweather pay-per-view, and I'm going to pay to see him fight Tyson. And he's got so much heat that when Miz turned on him, they started cheering for Miz. No one cheers for Miz.
No one
ever.
cheers for Miz.
Yes, that's exactly it. Tyson respects Logan Paul too, so he won't hurt him. He's exactly right because I mean, look, it goes. Speaking of this, we were talking about the Will Smith slap earlier being a work. Obviously, there's a part of that Mayweather stuff that could have been a work too, because they showed him picking him up. Obviously, Tyson probably could decimate him, but he's not going to do it because that's not really going to put on a show. But Logan Paul is basically he did an interview with WWE. He's like, for the longest time I've been the world's richest loser. I kept losing, but I'm rich. And that's like, man, that's such a heel thing to say. Like, no matter what you can do, you're still rich. So I agree. I think Tyson probably will protect him and put on a show. But I think he has a future with WWE if he ever wants it. Because Jake Paul was on the pre-show, and the people were booing him because that's what wrestling fans do. When you're a celebrity, and we're going to get into this later, it's very hard to win wrestling fans over. And Jake Paul and Logan Paul have that celebrity that they're not going to get over. So they were booing them, and Jake Paul was like turning around. He's like, I knock people like you out. I knock people. Like he was egging the crowd on. It's like, oh man, I'd pay to see the Logan brothers against a team and they treated it like a shoot. Like, no, you're not going to disrespect the wrestlers. There was a TikTok guy. He was getting booed, and he didn't know what to do. The Paul brothers knew what to do. They kept egging it on.
Yeah.
So props to that.
Really good. Really good.
That was awesome stuff. Then we had the redemption match. What I call redemption match. Bianca Belair won the title for Becky Lynch. And
the payoff to the story that started at SummerSlam that nobody liked.
Right. That we still suspect could have been a botch. And a botch in a sense that, everybody loves Becky, so let's just give her the belt in 20 seconds, and it backfired. And it worked here. This was on night one. This was match of the night. Match of the night. Bianca got her hand raised. It was a great match.
Yeah, I like that look Becky Lynch was doing. I'm not sure what that was, but with a new haircut.
Yeah, they kind of gimmicked it, right? Because Bianca cut her hair the week before on Raw to set up, you're trying to cut my ponytail.
Oh, Bianca cut her hair on Raw. Okay, yeah, that's right.
So then maybe she's like, maybe they did the whole, if you're getting a haircut, let's turn it into an angle. But there's really not much to say other than Bianca got her redemption, and it was cool to see because they had Sasha and Bianca had the match on night one, and it was the match of the night last year as well. So props to Bianca, man. She did it 2 years in a row. Next up, here is the other match of the night. Can we have 2 matches of the night?
I think you can do that.
I think that's fair to do it because, as everyone suspected, it was Cody Rhodes as the mystery opponent against Seth freaking Rollins. And this was not as, I don't want to discount this at all. I'm just trying to preface it. It wasn't as big of a pop as the Hardys got, but it was still a massive pop. And Cody killed it in that match. He killed it in that entry. And he's been killing it ever since. He has what CM Punk was doing, where he feels like a legitimate athlete that's talking about his trade, not somebody reading scripted lines. But this match was great, and they went all out. Like when he gave that reverse suplex off the top, like he usually does it, the superplex into the Falcon Arrow, but he rolled, and then it looked like he was going to give him like a dragon sleeper, and this match was great. To have these 2 matches in a row like that was phenomenal. And Cody had his AEW entrance. He had everything.
Super interesting he did his AEW entrance.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like the stuff he's been doing after cutting the promos, he's just doing his AEW gimmick. Mm-hmm. That's never happened. Like I can't recall WWE doing something like that.
Oh, no.
Not repacked. And you're right. He's cutting a promo on the Raw after, but that's part of it.
No, yeah, it's happening.
That no one else in WWE gets to cut.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, I feel like, and he even said it on one of his post-match interviews. He's like, I'm really looking forward to telling the writers no. And he meant it in a very respectful way because this man clearly doesn't need a writer. You can collaborate with him. Don't give him any lines he needs to see because like JJ said, adrenaline in my soul. Like when you heard that music, you had a pop because then it's only been NWO, Goldberg, and that was for WCW. Like, they didn't even bring DDP over as DDP, right? Think of that. I mean, I guess Big Papa Pump, they kind of let him keep the Big Papa Pump thing. It's very rare for Vince to let you keep your stuff. But for somebody like AEW, who he doesn't even acknowledge, and he let him come in as Cody like that?
That's what I'm saying. Something changed over at whatever at the WWE building. Something's different. To me, the way the 2 nights were booked felt very different than what we've been seeing for a long time now.
And I know one of their producers resigned, and they didn't announce until after Mania, so it could have had something to do with that. But to let him come in there and just be Cody and just go out there and then cut that promo the night before that basically created that hashtag dude for the dream and telling that story of Dusty fighting Superstar in the Garden and bringing up the history and letting him talk about pro wrestling. And he's like, my goal was, he's like, oh, Dad, I didn't know you won the title like Hulk Hogan. And then he had explained that he won it on a count out and he didn't get to keep the title. And then, funny enough, you heard the story that Dan Lambert, who you did not know, he's a wrestling historian too. He had the original belt, that WWF belt, and he gave it to Cody.
Really?
Yeah. He gave it to him, and he's like, and apparently Dan Lambert, how you see him on TV is kind of how he is like for a shoot. But I guess he's a collector too, and he gave Cody that belt, and he's like, you should have this. I was just like, wow. And he's like, now I have this belt. And now he's out there telling that story. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. And they're just basically letting Cody be Cody, and it's working so well. And he's not going to get right into the title picture. He's not done with Seth Rollins, but just having him come out with Seth and shake his hand, that was cool. But now that there's only one belt, but would you pay to see Cody versus Roman Reigns? I
Yes.
would.
Yeah, I would.
Absolutely would.
I would borrow your Peacock password.
Because think of this, it's just like now you're going to have the tribal chief, the bloodline, basically the Samoan mafia, as we used to call it here, running the whole show against the common man, doing it for the dream. You're going to be rooting for him. And Roman's had that belt for so long. They're comparing it to Pedro Morales, Bob Backlund, Hulk Hogan, Bruno Sammartino, and Roman Reigns for the longest title reign. I mean, they're actually acknowledging wrestling history, which is cool.
So, I mean, like I said, I feel like something has changed at WWE in the writers' room, in the production meetings. Something's changed. And I would, if the folks back there are paying attention now, I would be saying they should be saying to themselves, well, this is the most interesting thing that's happened here in a while.
Yeah.
This is going to get us more press than anything we could possibly do right now.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns could shit himself in the middle of the ring or something, and this, nothing. This is everybody wants to know about this.
Yeah.
So why not push him right into the title picture, right?
I think you could. I don't think they're gonna, but I think you could. I think you absolutely could.
They've got to give him an interesting angle, and it's got to be top of the card.
Yeah.
Up the top of the card.
Well, and the funny thing about Cody's, he's already setting up angles. Like he was on the bump this morning, and he was talking about, the Seth Rollins stuff, and he talked about how jealous he was when Seth Rollins won the FCW title before it was NXT, because they were calling those guys Dusty's kids, and he was on the road kind of like stuck in a rut, and he was jealous. He's like, Dusty's kids. Dusty has kids. I'm Dusty's kids. And he said he was feeling like professional jealousy. I was like, this guy's already setting up another angle with Rollins that you're intrigued. And they actually went and showed the flashback of Seth Rollins winning that title and Dusty Rhodes hugging Seth Rollins in the ring. And then Cody's like, yeah, I mean, Dad, he was just like that because he just would do this weird thing. And I don't know if he did it just to get me fired up, but he would befriend my opponents when I would wrestle in high school. And I was just like, man, this guy is so good. He's already setting up angles, because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's going to be something there with already Seth, because he's talking about legitimate, real, right? Personal issues, pal. Real stuff. And they're like, he's setting it up, and it was great.
I mean, I think WWE, they've lucked into something really good. Not lucked, they bought it. They paid for it.
Yeah,
but it's like, here it is. It's now we're going on 3 years of AEW. They've been building nothing but upward momentum. They're doing great. They're the coolest, hippest, probably, wrestling organization out there right now, most widely known. And then one of their top guys bounces, and WWE scoops him up. I mean, you're going to listen to what he has to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You're going to find out, well, how did you do this? Or actually, what do you think of this script? You know what I mean?
Right.
Why not? Why wouldn't you utilize that?
Yeah.
And I'm sure Cody would be like, he would like to do that.
Oh, he'd absolutely like to.
And I'm sure part of his pitch is like, I can help. Can I see your booking? Can I see the booking for the WrestleMania? How about we just talk about it? I'll give you my ideas.
Yeah. He says he doesn't want an EVP, but there's no way.
That's exactly what he wants to do.
Yeah.
That's why he left AEW, because he wasn't EVPing as much as he wanted to.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, I believe Jim Cornette put it best. He's like, now you're talking about one of the founders that left this company to join your company. He basically knows what makes all of that talent there tick. He knows when contracts are up. He knows what people want, knows what people are getting.
100%.
That's like, now he's legitimately like, he's a tool.
He knows who's not happy there.
Yeah.
He knows what they're thinking, what they like, what they don't like.
Yeah. Man, so MJF, they were grading him on, Paul Heyman was grading him on him talking about, hey, FYI, my contract's up January 2024. It's going to be the biggest negotiations in pro wrestling. Like, he's already using WWE as a tool, and he's calling it out on AEW. I think it's great. It's great, and it's healthy for the business. It's like watching all fish feed on other fish, because it makes a healthy ocean.
It's what it is, man, and competition is good. I just had an image in my mind of like Cody Rhodes and Vince in a room together, and Vince is showing him clips of like Orange Cassidy and asking how come this is popular.
How come this works?
How come this works? Can you explain it to me, Swan?
Yeah, I don't think it's kind of like explaining to your old drunk uncle, the TikTok dance. It's probably not going to work. But we'll get into Uncle Vince here in a minute. But hats off to Cody, and I'm excited about. I want to see him take on the Tribal Chief. I've already purchased it. I'm ready. Next up, we had Charlotte Flair defeating Ronda Rousey with a run-in from Charlotte's boob, which was trending on Twitter.
What happened?
Yeah, her
She had a wardrobe malfunction?
She had a wardrobe malfunction on the side. Then that was like, I was really looking forward to this match, not because I was hoping for a wardrobe. I'll take it. But they are so, that this one also felt like a shoot. Because you remember the match that Charlotte had with Ronda a couple Survivor Series ago? And they was just like, it was turned in like Charlotte like went crazy and was like beating her with a kendo stick. Like it felt like a shoot. So I was excited about this. I know both of these two can go, and it was a good match. I had no heat with it. I was actually surprised that Charlotte beat her clean. Like she beat her clean 1, 2, 3. So I don't know if this means Ronda, because remember when Ronda lost the last time we saw her at WrestleMania when she lost, it was kind of like it looked like a botch. Like her shoulder was supposed to get up and the ref counted her down anyway. This one was a clean 1, 2, 3, which is very. And what you wouldn't expect to see from Ric Flair. Like if this was Ric Flair, they would have faked, and I guess they kind of did that. They would have worked that Charlotte lost and then found a way to give the title back to Flair. And they kind of did that because the referee did actually count 1, 2, 3 on Charlotte, but then her foot was on the rope, so he instantly turned that around. And then they did a ref distraction gimmick, and then Charlotte was tapping. And then they gave Charlotte the win. So it wasn't as dirty as the dirtiest player of the game, but she did go over clean. And I got no complaints with the match. I like Ronda. I'm one of the few that actually likes Charlotte, so I was okay with it.
No complaints. It was fine, fit well in the program, and it was fine.
Yeah, it did. It did really well. And it was tough because it really kind of should have been the main event, but for reasons we're about to explain, it couldn't be the main
They did
event.
it right. They did it right.
Because this technically wasn't a match that came up next. This was supposed to be the main event version of the KO show, having Stone Cold Steve Austin after Kevin Owens has been making fun of Texas for the past 2 months. You're going to have the Rattlesnake come and face him. And then they got into it pretty quick. You know, the glass broke, and then he's like, I didn't call you here to talk. I called you here to fight. And I told you this, and this was fine. This accomplished exactly what it needed to accomplish. But I told you back when we used to wrestle, they would make you wrestle the Invisible Man. Some people would actually use a broomstick. But the idea is you should be able to have a match with nobody, and you're basically bumping all over the ring. And that's what it reminded me of Kevin Owens, because, you know, even if Steve was just throwing a punch, Kevin Owens was bumping like crazy for him. Like he was flying all over the place. And you knew Stone Cold wasn't going to be the normal Stone Cold. You know, he looked in phenomenal shape, but he never took off his t-shirt. So you kind of figured it wasn't going to be like a Stone Cold match. This was going to be a Stone Cold fight. And the people were eating it up, and they loved it, and they popped. And that's what they want. You needed that Stone Cold pop. And when he put him on his four-wheeler and he drove up the stage, I mean, it was great. It's exactly what you expected.
It completely worked.
Yeah.
They closed the show right, sent everybody home happy. The way they booked it was great. Like, I mean, because they never officially announced the match. Awesome. Add a little bit of speculation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Add some surprise. What a great way to a very simple way to just add some unexpected.
Yeah,
things.
and they're like, what's going to happen? And make you tune in to find out what's going to happen. And
right.
And it worked really well. Are you okay that Stone Cold took the pin? Like that, basically, that Kevin Owens put him over? Are you okay with that?
That Stone Cold took the pin.
No, I mean that Stone Cold won. He got the win.
Yeah, well, of course. That's fine with me.
Yeah. I mean, I would have no problem. Obviously, you would have no problem giving the job. I just didn't know if there was going to be
No one has a problem doing a job for Stone Cold.
But do you remember back, and I get this was a different time, so I can understand. Do you remember when Rock came back, and Rock was basically setting up for his match with John Cena, but CM Punk had the belt, and that means CM Punk had to put The Rock over for the belt so they can set up for that WrestleMania match. And they had that reaction video of that guy flipping, losing his mind when CM Punk lost to The Rock with the people's elbow. He flipped out. We should probably pull that video up, right?
How would I search it?
Just put guy mad for CM Punk losing to The Rock.
Thank God for Google.
Yeah, yeah, that's not the best Google foo. And that's the end of night 1 for WrestleMania. So this is going to be our break. We're going to see the reaction because I'm okay with Stone Cold going over, and I didn't see any negativity, but I was just curious if this was going to happen again.
Is this a person in their house?
Yeah, it's a person in their house in
Is
front
it
of
like
their
a-
TV, and he's like wearing a belt. He's like in a T-shirt. Can you just pop it up real quick, and I'll know just by the thumbnail probably. Yep, that's it. That top one.
Top one?
That's it. Yep. Yeah, so watch this. This was Royal Rumble. He already gave him the rock bottom. Watch this kid. I was curious if this was going to happen to Kate. Look at it. Got the Paul Heyman guy shirt on, right? The voice of the voiceless.
Wrestling is real.
Yeah. I think he does one more angry.
You're laughing at me and I'm getting pissed the fuck off about it.
Those are perfectly good Blu-rays. Why is he kicking them?
Where's the rock at in this fucking thing? That's what I think about you, Rock. That's what I think about you, Rocky. Get out. Seriously, please.
That's the end, I think, pretty much.
100 days. Away for a fucking, so we can promote another fucking movie into a
So, yeah, at the time, CM Punk was creeping on the longest reigning champion. So that kid was furious. So I was curious if KO, who has a very similar following to CM Punk, if they were upset that he would come in and put Stone Cold over.
JJ has a good point here. He's like, I was a little surprised that he went over because of that old school mindset that you go out on your back.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, especially, and he has
Stone
it, right?
Cold's
You
not
go on
going.
and-
He's going to be around, right? He's just going to not wrestle, maybe. But
Yeah, I was really curious. Like, I figured if they'd find a way, but it would have been really hard the way it was positioned in the card. Being Vince does have that thing, although sometimes it doesn't look true. He has that thing that you got to send the crowd home happy.
you got to.
Yeah, and you had to finish it on a beer bath. So there's part of me. The only note I would have had was I wish there was a way that they could have used it to introduce a few more Texas legends, and that way he would have went out, and then you could have got like Booker T could have came out and gave him a bookend. JBL could have came out and gave him a clothesline. Shawn Michaels could have gave him the sweet. All these Texans, because the whole heat was that he was making fun of Texas. So now you get all the Texans, but the Ultimate Texan gives him the stunner in there. But maybe they thought that was too much if they would have went to the cheap pop. I thought they would have did like they did with Sting versus Triple H, and then they found a way to turn it into DX versus the NWO. They could have used an excuse to get a lot of Texans in there, and maybe that would have made it feel a little cleaner. But I didn't see a lot of complaints about it, so I was like, okay, I'm fine with it. I mean, if you paid me to take a stunner, I'd take that stunner and go home.
For sure.
So
Yeah, maybe I feel like maybe Stone Cold has transcended that having to go out on your back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's gonna be champion forever.
yeah, he's definitely going to be the rattlesnake champ. So that was night 1. Thumbs up for night 1. Cody coming back, Bianca's redemption, seeing Stone Cold in the beer bath. Thumbs up. So we start off night 2. Start off with RK Bro defeating the Street Profits and Alpha Academy. Solid triple threat match, no complaint. Randy Orton is having the time of his life in this RK Bro gimmick, and he had another WrestleMania worthy RKO where he did the Seth one that was famous, right? Where Seth went to give him the blackout, the curb stomp, and then he launched him in the air in RKO. Where Alpha Academy homeboy Chad Gable, he got caught with a moonsault into an RKO on one of the Raws. And I was like, how is he? This time he did it with like a crossbody, but man, he's so athletic. It looked really good. But for this one, it was the setup, obviously, to have that Gable Stevenson, which they're kind of booking as their next big thing, their next Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar. He was the legitimate gold Olympic medal winner. That was a wrestler they signed, and they used that as an excuse. They were going to do the Street Profits. They were going to have the drinking party, and Chad Gable came in and snacked it out of there. They called Gable, and it gave him a sick-looking belly-to-belly. So what do you think of that guy, Gable Stevens?
I like him. I'm yeah.
He looks, I mean, obviously they got a mix between Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle, and he clearly is athletic. So if he's got
that
the
belly
right
to belly looks solid. So I was
it
like,
did.
yeah, this guy's
You know he's got the wrestling skills, but what he's going to have to do is Kurt Angle showed it in this personality. And this new version of Brock Lesnar, Cowboy Brock, is so over with this awesome side of his personality that no one's ever saw.
I made a brisket with that spice the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff.
It's great. The Brock spice. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We had the spoonful that sucked all the juices out of my mouth. Thumbs up, though. See that. Next up, you had Bobby Lashley beating Omos. So Omos is no longer defeated. That's Vince's pet giant. And they probably wondered why, but it was cool. They kind of had that Davey versus Goliath. David versus Goliath feel. And it made more sense that Bobby Lashley went over the next night when MVP turned on Bobby Lashley and now is the manager to Omos. I thought, okay, that bookends exactly why that happened. So
Someone's helping him out, dude. Someone is feeding him ideas.
it felt like wrestling, right? Like, oh, that's perfect. That's Bobby Heenan and Andre the Giant with Omos and MVP. I was like, that's great. And because now Bobby Lashley be like, well, I need to beat you. I already beat you once before, but now you got to beat him with MVP in your corner after your manager turned on you. So I was very happy with that. That worked out really well. Next up, to quote JBL, somebody call the sheriff. They're going to steal the show. Sami Zayn put over Johnny Knoxville in a match that I had no idea I was going to enjoy it as much as I did. To the point where you're like, why? I think you said this earlier. Why didn't Johnny Knoxville do this earlier?
Dude, this match worked so good for me.
Yeah, it was perfect.
It was all jackass. It makes perfect sense. It all makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
The jackass guys can take big bumps.
Yeah.
Because they're the jackass guys.
Right.
So you can throw them around. Wee Man got kicked square in the nose.
Oh, man, that was a hard kick, too. Like
Of course. That's what they do. It makes perfect sense. And then, Johnny Knoxville had all the gimmicks, the jackass prank stuff.
Oh,
I think he's got a WWE future. He can be the gimmick guy. He can be the prop comic, and it'll work.
It worked so well, like the giant hand. I didn't even see it coming. Or when he somehow got the remote control for the pyro, and the pyro went off on Sammy's ass. I mean, that was great. Hats off to Sami Zayn, because he was another one. I mean, for being a comedy match, it was a stiff comedy match. Like usually a comedy match doesn't
super stiff.
Yeah.
But these guys can take it. That's what's perfect.
I know. So
it makes perfect sense.
It's very rare to have a comedy match that requires such hard bumps and being so stiff. And I think that's what made this unique. And we talked about this earlier. The celebrities are not always welcome in the pro wrestling ring by the fans. The fans were loving it. Like when Wee Man came in and started throwing blows, and I saw a few memes of like showing Wee Man slamming Sammy next to Hogan slamming Andre. I mean, there was just like, it was great. And then the mousetraps on, like, look, wrestlers do the whole jackass thing. Like, hi, I'm Johnny Knoxville, and I'm about to throw tacks on the ground and roll on them. Wrestlers are already doing that. So it wasn't that unusual to have all these mousetraps glued to a freaking table. The only thing I wasn't too crazy about, and then they had the dancing guy that came. Everything just worked so well, and Sammy was getting pissed, and he was being stiff with him. The only thing that I wish they could have found a way to do a little different was the giant mousetrap. Like, I don't know if they could have made it a little bit more stiff, because it looked like he was holding it down. But I don't know. It just worked, man. It's just the audience grew up with the Jackass. It's definitely their genre. I totally agree with that.
I think it
Everybody-
might have helped that I just saw the Jackass movie, the new one.
Oh, okay.
And I loved it.
Yeah, you were
I hadn't
cracking
laughed
up,
so
right?
hard in forever, dude.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know what it is about this one. Because I mean, that was whatever. I watched Jackass. I was never like a laugh out loud at pranks kind of, whatever. But like, I could not stop laughing at the new Jackass movie.
Yeah.
So when this match came on, it just worked so perfect for me. And I see it. Like, they should go ahead and put Johnny Knoxville in an angle on SmackDown. Can you imagine? People would tune in for that. Friday night, you have the Johnny Knoxville prank guy. Put him in who's not doing anything. Put him with somebody that people want to see get beat up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, like, just do it. And people would tune in for that.
Yeah.
That could be the end,
I totally agree. And this worked so well because this had that crossover appeal. They always try to get to Mania, right? Like, they had for a shoot Sami Zayn crash, Jackass red carpet. So I mean, and it had TMZ coverage, so they had that coverage. So this just worked from head to toe. It worked from head to toe, and I was super happy with it.
And then Sami Zayn did the job.
Yeah, and this is one of those moments that it was okay. Right, like maybe would Roddy have Piper put over Johnny Knoxville? No, but he also probably wouldn't have been okay with getting Pyro in the ass either.
But what he did was put over the pranks. That's why I'm saying
He put over the pranks.
That's why
That's a
I'm saying
good
that
point.
can continue to work.
Sorry, still nursing. But yeah, that would continue to work, and I would pay to do it. So again, we're going to talk about the second one, but this was a night where the celebrities stole the show, and that was the first time. Next up, we had Naomi and Sasha Banks. They won the titles against, it was a fatal four-way, so you had Carmella and Queen Zelina were the champs, Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, and Natalya and Shayna Baszler. The Queen of Hearts and the Queen of Spades. Sasha got her moment, and Naomi got her. They both won titles at WrestleMania before, so this was just no complaints, but there was nothing that really stuck out other than one of the Mandalorians got the title.
Dude, perfect. Have they been tag team partners before?
Yeah, remember when Sasha first got there, I think it was Naomi and maybe Tamina Snuka.
Well, either way,
They were
they
team,
should have the
team
belts forever
bad
now.
or something.
They should have the belts forever. That's great. That's an awesome team up.
Yeah. They work really well as a team because I was to the point where I was like, they got to do something different with Naomi. And, for a shoot, she's married to one of the Usos. I thought maybe she should just turn heel and have her join the bloodline. But before they do that, I'm cool with them if they just want to keep these two going.
She can't do heel. She's like too nice.
Yeah.
She's too nice. She can't do it. I love the glow thing that just it's whatever. I think it's gonna work great. Her and Sasha as the tag team champs. Who else? I mean, that's the best tag team champs they've had in a while.
Yeah.
Since like the Iconics or something.
The
like that.
Iconics, yeah. The Iconics or this
But,
one.
like,
They
it
feel
totally-
like a legit tag team.
And now we got the trio of Sasha and Bianca and Naomi as like the a trio of champs. Put them in a faction.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think the females need more factions. I think that would help.
AEW has proved factions helps a lot.
Factions work, even if they don't go to ringside, and you don't need to have 30 people going in the ring to you, but I mean, just having the factions walk into the ring, to the ramp with you, and then walking away, that's fine. But yeah, hats off. That was a solid match too. Next up, I would have guessed that a match like this would have stole the show if you saw it on paper, but it was very just there. Edge went over on AJ Styles, and I guess because I haven't been keeping up, but Edge has gone full heel, and he's going to more of a methodical brood, right? Like now he's the cult leader. He calls himself the omnipotent one. And the big news that come out of this is they're finally doing something with Damian Priest, who was not getting over as a babyface. So he came out as a heel, and he's joining it. And I was like, I wish they were call it the New Brood, but I don't think they're going to.
Yeah,
This
whatever.
match there was nothing.
I think. I mean, I'm not a fan right now. I mean, Edge is fine. He's great. He's a legend. I would love to see him in AEW. Go to AEW and team up with Christian and take the belts from Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus.
Oh my God,
And have
yeah.
some going that way. I don't know. He's like, it feels like an old gimmick. It just not very original. Just not into it. I'm just not into
No,
it.
if they were
what
going
Edge is
for the
doing right now.
if they were going for the Remember Berries, just make him new brood. Because the next night when Damian Priest was explaining why he joined Edge, the crowd was chanting, "We don't care." And and he had Edge out there and it worked. He's like, back then that would have bothered me, but it doesn't bother. I don't know. Nothing really special to talk about, but it was a good match. But you would have thought, wow, these guys are going to steal the show. But
Sidebar, like, wasn't Damian Priest's indie name like Punisher Martinez or something?
yeah,
Man, should have kept that.
yeah,
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, you should have stuck with that.
He'd be at the top of WWE right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Next match is Sheamus and Ridge Holland with Butch defeated the New Day. This kind of sucked. This would be my thumbs down for personal reasons because obviously Ridge Holland, even though it was an accident, obviously he's the one that broke Big E's neck. I don't think you reward him with an absolute win right on the biggest stage of them all.
He got a win? I didn't even realize
he got. Not only did he get the win, but he got the pin. And the New Day was actually dressed as Big E as a tribute. I just thought that was a little bit tone deaf. I have no heat with the Sheamus, Ridge Holland, Butch, whatever the Gangs of New York or whatever the gimmick they're doing. I got no heat with that.
Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah, they don't need to do like that. That felt.
I didn't even realize that
tone-deaf.
was going on. I would think I was making popcorn while that happened.
Yeah, so to have him go over, I know it was an accident and accidents happen and when they're in the ring, but it just sent the wrong message to me. But I guess they're like, okay, accidents happen, but we're going to just keep moving with the way they went. So nothing really more to say about this. Because the next match was another one that stole the show. Pat McAfee defeating Austin Theory with Mr. McMahon. That crowd was going nuts for Pat McAfee. He played for the Colts. He didn't pay for the Cowboys.
Way surprised by this match. I hadn't been watching the podcast, so I didn't have a whole lot of Pat McAfee background.
Oh, man.
And then as this was going on, I realized they're doing a podcast gimmick.
Yeah.
They're doing a podcast gimmick.
Yeah.
And I was like, even when he put on
stole
the
our
headset and was cutting a promo on the headset,
Yeah.
and it was awesome. Another good one. So here's what I'm seeing is the emerging pattern is that WWE is now figuring something out. They're kind of evolving. If they stick to this, or if this is going to be a thing, they've realized that celebrities on WWE like get ratings. People like them, and they're making it work now.
Yeah. And the celebrities aren't just going out there and doing really bad, taking bad bumps and doing bad slaps. You're finding these celebrities that are athletic AF, and they're just literally going out there and having great matches. And the psychology is Pat McAfee understands the psychology. Like, he had the crowd, and he was selling properly. He was doing everything right for Austin Theory, who I thought was a throwaway. And, for a shoot, they think he's going to be the next John Cena. And to me, it's just like, it's not. But tonight, he won me over on this night. He won me over, and it had a lot to do with Pat McAfee. But yeah, so just to go back a little bit, they protect. I'm calling it now. WWE will team with Jackass Crew to do more dangerous stunts like blow up cars and McGregor stunts attacking opponents. I agree. I think they're, like I said, they're going to do more about that. And JJ said they killed my Pete Dunne. The Bruiserweight is no longer. He is now Butch, which apparently that was his nickname. I don't know, but again, yeah, it was still a thumbs up even when there was some glaring stuff. But
it's a shame Andy Kaufman is not alive right now, or maybe if he's alive, this would be a good time to come back because now it's like they're realizing inviting celebrities to come do pro wrestling is a good thing that they can actually do successfully. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like he was the trendsetter. Like he risked it and risked, and some would say ruined his career in the sense by doing what these guys are doing now and getting over with.
Crazy.
Yeah.
He was ahead of his time.
He was way ahead of his time. So, but yeah, Pat McAfee. I like that they just said, "What, bro? What should I wear, boss? What should I wear? What do you think I should wear for my match?" Well, Pat, you can just wear what you wear on the podcast, and we'll throw a little glitter on it. We'll give it a little shine.
Makes perfect sense to
It's
me.
just like with the same tank top and pants he wears for that, and his gold chain, and it was great. And he's athletic. He had a great match with Adam Cole, so I knew he was going to be athletic. And that podcast is just good stuff. I feel like he's slowly overtaking the the bro podcast to go to because Joe Rogan has become a little bit polarizing. So everyone's going to go now to
Yeah, I
Pat
started
McAfee.
watching it finally.
Yeah, it's good, man.
It's good, and he's a little bit. It's he's got the standing desk gimmick.
Yeah, and he just paces a lot.
I like that.
Yeah, it works. So it was good. And here's where I was confused. So right after this, Pat Mac, and again, Austin Theory, JJ said he's a mark from. He won me over that night, and I'll explain it why. I obviously the helping, the selling, and working the crowd. But this next thing caught me completely off guard. Completely off guard. I don't know if you saw this coming because you knew Vince. Like Vince doesn't hardly do anything anymore. So I thought Vince was just being Vince, saying, I'm going to take off my jacket. No, I'm not going to give you guys a match. Okay, and he slowly started and then when he took off his shirt and he had the classic Vince tank top there, so I was like, Vince is really going to get in the ring and have a match? Like, did you see this coming?
Well, I had heard rumors about it on the.
I did. I was completely caught off guard, and I was like, wow, this is weird because now they're going to do this, and then it's like in having a match, and they're clear what they were going to do, right? It's just Austin Theory was going to beat the crap out of him and get his revenge, and Vince was going to take the 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, oh man, Pat McAfee was so over. How are you going to do this and ruin it and risk taking that shine off and throwing the crowd off right before the main event? And Vince is finally starting to look a little bit like he's still in great shape, but finally this guy is human, because before no one thought he was human. But then, and I was talking to Mike. He's like, I smell a stunner. And it just hit me. Oh, wait, is Stone Cold still there? And still, as soon as I heard that and that glass broke, you're like, oh, man, and that place came unglued. And then you realize, I got duped. WWE, when they do it right, they do it so right. And it's so great. And it was just like, it was perfect nostalgia, even though it was the worst stunner bump. Like he overtook Linda and Donald Trump for taking the worst stunner bump. He took the first one, he took it to shits, and this last one, he took it to shits. But, man, it was so good.
Still worked 100%.
It still did, because
no
Stone
matter
Cold
what, it still
laughing actually made it work. Stone Cold walking away laughing, like, oh, my God, I can't believe that bump he took was the shits. It was just, it worked so well, and that crowd ate it up. It was great. I got no complaints. It felt like they had a lot of WrestleMania moments, and I feel like the last few WrestleManias, that's what they've been lacking. They always push these moments. It's all these moments, WrestleMania moments, but they've been lacking those moments. And this one, over 2 nights, they had tons of them. They had tons of WrestleMania moments with celebrities to get that type of press. And not just the celebrities, but with the legitimate, crowd favorites with Cody Rhodes. I think it's just, they had all these moments and it worked so well.
I'm trying to find that moment Pat McAfee passed out drinking the beer.
Oh man, that was so good. I popped on that, and everyone's like, oh my God, I got to have that as a GIF. Because he was just, when you knew it was coming, he's like, oh cool, he's going to do the cheer. Yeah, there it is. Oh my God, how awesome is that? That just worked. Yeah, he's smart to the business, man. He's smart to the business, and he knew how to work it, and he did it, and it was great. And then even Stone Cold laughing, and you're almost made it okay. It's like, okay, you just stunned the guy who was over with the crowd and won. Because if that was anybody else, you ran the risk. Like Pat McAfee was so over with that crowd. If Stone Cold gave him the stunner, they could say, oh man, is Stone Cold turning heel? But he was so buzzed, because by then he was already down like 10 or 12 beers. And he just started laughing the whole time. I was like, it just worked. Everything about it worked. And it was great, because it sucked with people who paid all that money to go see WrestleMania, like, oh, I'm only going to night 2. They don't get to. You basically got great Stone Cold moments on both nights.
You called it. Got to give him Stone Cold both nights.
Yeah, and they did it, and it worked out well. And then the last match was Roman Reigns defeating Brock Lesnar. They called it the winner takes all, the biggest match of all time, which it's not. These guys wrestled each other before, but it was a great. Here's the thing. Brock Lesnar does not have bad matches. You notice that? Because you know why? There's always a sense of danger when somebody's wrestling Brock Lesnar. There's always a sense of danger that he's going to turn into UFC Brock Lesnar, knowing how strong he is. There's always a sense of danger, even if it's Roman Reigns. that something crazy could happen. And something crazy did happen because Brock Lesnar lost, and he lost pretty quick, and people were confused. And then, did you hear Roman, when the camera got really close, he said, "It's out, it's out." They think for a shoot, Brock Lesnar legitimately ripped his shoulder out of his socket.
Yeah, I did hear that.
And that's why they went home. It was weird that you just kind of went home with one spear because you think something like Brock Lesnar is going to need 3. But again, that's why his matches are so good. There's a real sense of combat danger, not Goldberg, I'm going to drop you on your head danger. So, I mean, I'm okay with the longer somebody keeps the belt, the more worth it's going to have. And Roman's had that belt for a long time. When he loses that belt, people are going to lose their minds. And if it's Cody, forget it. Whatever roof they're under is going to blow off.
I think it's a good idea. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a hot property now with Cody. You've got something that people are interested in, and you've got something that is actually going to pull AEW eyes over.
Yeah.
They have not had that in 3 years.
Yeah, they can.
So do some, and I feel like WWE is pretty haphazard with the title. They'll just they'll just switch it whenever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know. Roman's had it forever, and that's they gotta save that. But who else are they gonna give it to? It makes perfect. Give it to Cody. It makes sense.
Yeah. Now
You know
that
what I mean?
now that if Brock takes a little bit of a break, give it to Cody. I totally agree. Renato saying any other finish is looking good, as iconic as a stunner. I got to say the RKO. I mean, it's the RKO out of nowhere became a meme for so long. I think the whole thing about what makes a finish. This could be a little sidebar. What makes a finishing move iconic? And here it is. It's the suddenness. It's the suddenness. Yeah. Because you think back to all the finishers that are like, boom, DDT, Diamond Cutter, Stunner, RKO. They're all very similar. It's just grab them, drop them. It's that suddenness where quicker than a hiccup, you could be out cold. So sometimes less is more, and having... obviously the F5, Lesnar's finish looks great, but only Lesnar can do that because he's going to be the guy that's strong enough to pick up anybody over his head and do that. I mean, he's done it to Big Show. He's done it to Braun Strowman. But the suddenness. And did you know that Jake's DDT, the finisher, was actually an accident?
No.
So he used to wear these pants to the ring, similar to the pants that I wore. Obviously way before. And he put the guy in a front face lock, and he started to try to walk backwards. The guy tried to push him backwards. So Jake stepped to the side, but then tripped and basically brought him down on his head. And he said the crowd reaction was like, oh, like it was a legit shoot. And then he's like, I got something. And then he came up with the DDT. And it's just the suddenness. Diamond Dallas Page, RKOs. It's that out of nowhere suddenness is what makes a finisher great. And stunner, boot to the gut stunner. It can happen to anybody. And that brings us full circle why Austin Theory won me over that night. Like we talked about Kevin Owens. We know he's a vet. He knows that he's going to bump all over the place. But that bump that Austin Theory took for that stunner, I was like, okay. I'm starting to this kid's starting to win me over because his feet were flailing in the air and he went flying, and I was like, that's great. And the way he sold that bump, he won me over that night. And then even watching him the next night on Raw, that A-Town down or whatever he says, I was like, okay, cool. I was holding it against you that you were a lethal Lothario and then you were one of Seth's acolytes, but I like this Mr. McMahon protege. I think this is going to really work. So. But all in all, great WrestleMania. Best WrestleMania they had in a long time. Sorry we didn't go because you burned us last time.
That's on them.
Yeah, that's on them. Oh, and then we also had a pretty choked up moment. We had 2 choke up moments. Obviously, the Undertaker retiring officially. For me, the choke out moment was Triple H just came out to introduce WrestleMania, but then you realized that the office was doing him a favor, and he left his boots in the ring, and that shows he's done. And that was just like, that's, as much as as the game gets, and, people said, Triple H never drew money. He always worked the guys that drew the money. But Triple H is a historian. I always, when he created NXT, turned NXT into what it is, he's was going to be the heir apparent. So to go out like that, I mean, he almost legit died. So knowing that he almost legitimately was about to be on life support, and then his WrestleMania moment was introducing the show and putting his boots in the ring, that one got me.
Yeah, man, it was good.
Mad respect that night. And even all the notes I gave are all pretty minor, because for the first time in a long time after WrestleMania, I was looking forward to Monday Night Raw.